When do you ignore when your business is basically whining and crying like a little baby? Right? Okay, so this is Entrepreneur Vault 100. Let us talk about when should you ignore when your business is whining and crying, just like a baby. Well, first of all, let's get this first aspect down, okay? Number one, your business is like a baby, okay? It has to crawl before it walks, before it runs, before it takes care of you. We've talked about this before. Now, during the whole aspect of a business growing or a child growing, there are certain points in time where they're going to be crying for no reason, even though you know what they're going through is what's going to help them to grow, or maybe it's something they have to go through. It's the same thing with your company. It's going to be whining and crying. And here's the thing though. It's going to be whining and crying because of three reasons. Number one, you. Yes, you. Number two, customers and users, whatever it might be, partners, whatever. Number three, your employees, the people involved within the company. So let's first of all get the first part out of the way. Number one, you as the CEO, as the executive, as one of the co-founders, you're also going to be whining and crying on why your business is whining and crying. When a child cries, the parent usually sometimes does get sick and tired of it. Let's just be honest, right? Child starts crying, it's the middle of the night, you're like, why are you crying? Then you start getting cranky, and basically you might not be pouring tears, but you're gonna be kind of mad, and you're gonna be feeling some of that. So basically, this is some of the things you need to do to alleviate that. Number one, understand it has to do that. There's nothing you can do. It's out of control. It's not in your hands. The business will have to cry and crawl. It will have to go through growing pains. So the best thing for you to do as the quote-unquote parent, as the CEO, whatever executive in the company, is basically go through the emotions, okay? Just go through the motions. Sooner or later, things will get better. So in the beginning, that might be when the company is not quite doing the numbers it needs to be doing. You're not getting the execution you need to be getting. The different levels of things in the company where you need to be at is not where you are right now. So it might be difficult for you to process. Now, the other different things that are going to make it harder for you is the other two key things. So number two is the customers. Customers are going to be whining and crying. It's going to happen. It's happened for all major companies. I don't care what company you're going to pick out of the map in the world. It can be Google, it can be Amazon, whatever it might be. They also had a point in time where customers were just crying and whining, okay? If you look at Amazon, I love using the example of Amazon because I'm reading the Everything Store book about Jeff Bezos and Amazon. It talks about how in the beginning, Amazon had a lot of different issues, okay? And employees were complaining about some of their packages not getting delivered, which again is now customers crying. In turn, you, the CEO, or Jeff Bezos in this case, is also frustrated about it. So it's something that you should understand that customers will be complaining, especially in the beginning. There's going to be customers who are very passionate about your company, and when they complain or they're nagging you a little bit, it doesn't mean they don't love your services. It doesn't mean they don't believe in your services. Those are the customers who are actually going to help you build your company. So when they're giving you suggestions, when they are whining, so to say, listen to why they're whining, and then also at the same time ignore them. I know it's kind of a contradiction, right? Listen to them and ignore them. The reason why you should listen to them is kind of understand what's wrong and then be able to act on that. Ignore them because you know that this is something that has to happen, especially when you're in early stages of your company. You need to kind of go with the emotions and go with the flow, okay? And then the third one is your employees. Your employees are also going to be whining and crying. Now, your employees whine and cry for other different reasons. It can also, mostly in the beginning when you're a startup, it's not because of the pay, but it can also be frustration of how the company is moving. Maybe the logistics of the company are not well optimized. Maybe the different departments are not talking with each other. Kind of like Amazon in the beginning when they're doing the fulfillment and the different developers, the people at the fulfillment facilities, all those different things. When the company started getting larger, getting more customers, it was hard for them to communicate very well. So those are the different challenges a company can be able to face with your employees. And then the other part might be pay, but usually it's not the amount of money they get paid, because especially if you're in the early startup of a company, they're usually there because they really believe in the company and the vision. But sometimes it can be because of pay. But if your employees are whining because of pay and you're a startup, then they're not the right employees for you to have in the beginning. Your employees in the beginning should be believing about the mission. That's why they usually get stock options in your company or whatever it might be. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So let's basically wrap this up and bring it back to picture, okay? Your company is going to be whining like a baby. Just like a business, it has to crawl and walk before it has to run. So the same thing for a baby, it's going to be whining and crying, even though you as a parent, you know that it has to go through those pains. So the same thing for you as a CEO or an entrepreneur, whatever it might be. When your business is whining, it can be from your employees, it can be from the customers, it can be just for the market conditions, the way things are. It's perfectly fine for you in the early stages to kind of go through the motions and understand the company is going to be whining and crying, but you should basically listen to it, right? Just like when you listen to your child that's whining, listen to it, see what's wrong, but at the same time, you just kind of have to ignore it because it's kind of like, yeah, your baby cries. It's what they do. It's the same thing for your business in the beginning. It's a startup. It cries. It's what it does. Okay, guys, I hope that made sense, and I hope I was able to help you out on that whole kind of, the reason why I make this video is because what I'm experiencing, so I kind of experienced it, I learned from it, and then I learned from all the different entrepreneurs who've come before us, and then I'm able to record a video and try to explain it in a good summary. And the reason why this is very important is because, honestly, guys, if you do not understand this, especially in the early stages of your company, you're going to be very, very frustrated. And the reason why a lot of startups usually don't get out of the startup stage is because of this. They don't understand that, hey, the company's going to cry. It's perfectly fine. Just make sure to be a good parent. Make sure to be a good executive of the company and be able to help it to keep growing. So just make sure you keep that in mind and you'll be able to survive longer and even possibly be able to get out of the startup stage. Basically, make sure the baby survives out of that stage. All right? So thank you very much for watching this video, and just make sure to keep doing what you're doing. Just make sure, just always remember, as long as you're executing, as long as you're feeding the company and providing the resources and environment it needs, it will survive. The same thing for a baby. Most of the time, you're providing some very basic needs, but most of the time, the baby, the genetics and all those different things the baby does and growing and, you know, when you nurture it and all those different things, it's going to do it. You're not the one who's like stretching the baby to grow. Hopefully, you're not doing that. The baby is basically growing by you providing the different resources. That's basically what I'm trying to kind of say here. All right? Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you on another episode of Entrepreneur Vault 100. Thank you for watching, and a peace to be out.